Euromaxx highlights. In this edition, Bread Nation. German bakers are among the most creative in the world. Hot idea. A Dutch designer gives iconic furniture the blowtorch treatment. Optical confusion. The visual artists who like to play with perceptions. Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Robin Merrill.
Hello and a warm welcome to the show. And we begin with one of the most wonderful things about living in Germany, and that's quite simply the bread. It doesn't sound too exotic, but there are hundreds of varieties to choose from here, and most are quite delicious. So here's a report that will make Germans living abroad quite homesick, and the rest of you insanely jealous.
They come in all shapes and sizes. Germany has arguably the greatest range of breads on the planet, some 300 or so different varieties. Celebrity chef Sarah Wiener is a big fan.
I like it. Nothing beats fresh bread.
Germany is home to around 15,000 bakeries. At Brotherbergauers in Hanover, they still do everything by hand. Master baker Jochen Gauers is preparing scorched bread, a regional speciality made from sourdough. The loaves are brushed with water and browned lightly before baking to make them extra crispy. This unconventional variety is made using Savoy cabbage and bacon.
You put fresh garlic and bacon onto a Savoy cabbage leaf. It's how they used to bake in old ovens, so that the bread wouldn't turn black on the bottom. Instead, the cabbage leaf would turn black and was then removed after baking. Adding the garlic was our idea.
Then it's time for the brick oven, where the bread is baked until it's the right shade. The various ingredients in the crust add extra aroma.
There's no other smell like it.
He and his team make and bake about 1,000 loaves a day and supply top restaurants across the country. They supply Schloss Bellevue, workplace of German President Horst Köhler. And their bread is also served at the upscale Hotel Adlon and has been eaten by the King of Spain. Bruce Willis is also rumoured to have taken a loaf home with him. Sarah Wiener serves bread from Jochen Gauers bakery in her restaurants.
That's the best part, the sound that fresh bread makes. Isn't that fantastic? That's what I call delicious bread. Bread has become a cult phenomenon in recent years. There's more acknowledgement of the creativity involved, and people are experimenting with spreads and what to combine with it.
She serves the bread with a potato-based cream, oil and salted butter. The butter, she says, goes particularly well with a good dark rye bread. For white bread, on the other hand, Sarah recommends high-grade olive oil with fresh sea salt.
Then you can practically do without other courses.
The precise ingredients are essential. This bakery in Berlin uses only organic products. Master baker Peter Klan has found various sources of inspiration while on his travels.
This is a bread shape from Carcassonne. It's about 1,000 years old. Our version is baked with nuts and plums, and it's fantastic with cheese like Lama Rouge or Camembert.
The rye bread loaves are baked in a wood-fired oven. This adds a special something to the flavour.
It certainly has a different taste to bread you normally find. It tastes better.
Very nice and not too heavy.
We like organic bread.
The demand for quality bread is rising in Germany. After all, it's a pillar of the German diet.
You can eat bread every day, not like foie gras.
If I were only allowed to eat one thing for the rest of my life, it would have to be bread and butter.
And most Germans would probably agree with her.
And an Englishman here as well. Dutch designer and artist Maarten-Baas takes existing furniture and changes it in quite radical ways, sometimes with clay, sometimes adding curves, and most famously by burning it. Yes, he really does apply a blowtorch to iconic items of furniture. You might think that's a little strange, but the results can be amazing.
Maarten-Baas is at work. He's producing a piece for his series called Smoke. He sees it as anything but an act of destruction.
We put a lot of attention in making the piece. It really takes hours to make it, or sometimes even days to make it, to restore it perfectly and really to make it a complete piece again. So there's a lot of respect involved in it as well, and it sounds as a paradox, but burning for me is not necessarily something negative at all.
Instead, it's a process of creation and modification from which something new emerges. After the pieces of furniture have been carefully torched, they're preserved with a clear epoxy resin. The Smoke series used such design classics as the Tonnet chair, the Carlton room divider by Ettore Sottsass, and Charles Eames' LCW plywood lounge chair. The series caused a stir in the design world.
For me, for instance, Smoke wouldn't make sense if I would design my own piece of furniture and then burn it. Then it's only the technique of a finishing technique, which is fine as well, but I really wanted to take something which you know already and then take that to a next stage. And and therefore I need something which already is known, and therefore I took old pieces of furniture.
Maarten-Baas prefers to work by hand. None of his pieces are designed on a computer. His furniture for the clay series is molded from special synthetic clay onto a metal skeleton. In this way, hours of handcrafting result in unique individual pieces using an unmistakable design idiom at prices of up to 8,000 euros.
Things should kind of grow almost naturally, like they are not, there are no brains involved or so. It really like nature grows, or a plant grows to the light. And if furniture could grow like that as well, then I think it would reach much more the kind of perfection which you see in nature as well. It's kind of finding a balance between this human input and this natural kind of input.
The furniture from his Sculpt series also seems to have grown organically, though in fact it's made of steel. But Maarten-Baas does much more than just design furniture. For Dom Ruinart Champagne, he designed this melting ice bucket. His latest project, video installations on the subject of time, like this sweeper's clock. Is it design or art?
What I say to people who ask me that question is just that I'm not interested in the answer of the question. I mean, I just make my things, and it's to others to make a theory around it, or to make it to put it in a category. But yeah, it's true. Designers call me not a designer, and artists call me not an artist. I'm just making what I make.
Take his grandfather clock, for instance. It only seems to have someone inside its wooden housing. Instead, this is a 12-hour video running on a screen. As long as Maarten-Baas keeps presenting such refreshingly surprising ideas, it doesn't really matter whether they're in the realm of design or art.
Every year since 2002, there's been a very special charity event called Cinema for Peace that's held here in the German capital during the Berlin Film Festival. It's not an official part of the Berlinale, but takes advantage of the fact that many movie stars are in the city anyway. The charity gala is a big night out and raises a lot of money for good causes.
The glamorous backdrop for this year's Cinema for Peace Gala was matched by the roll call of A-list celebrities in attendance. Hollywood star Leonardo di Caprio, as well as regulars like cinema legend Catherine Deneuve and Irish musician and activist Bob Geldof.
It's exciting to be at a major event like this, and the films that are to be honoured aren't just about special effects, they're socially critical.
It's very good, it's a very important cause, but we are here tonight for that.
Much of the proceeds from this year's admission tickets and auctions will go towards victims of the earthquake in Haiti. Celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio did their best to attract plenty of paying guests willing to dig deep for a good cause. Tickets cost between 500 and 2,000 euros. The highlight of the gala are the Cinema for Peace Awards. The Special Reconciliation Prize went to 5 Minutes of Heaven, a Northern Ireland conflict drama starring Irish actor Liam Neeson. Sir Christopher Lee picked up an award for Triage, which examines the psychological effects of war on a photojournalist.
I've been here every time. I think this is my 8th time. And what better cause can there be than anything which is about peace?
The most valuable film of the year accolade went to The White Ribbon by Austrian filmmaker Michael Haneke. It follows fictitious events in a village in North Germany shortly before the First World War broke out. The black and white morality tale has won an Oscar nomination for Best Foreign Language Film.
Yeah.
The last prize to be awarded was the coveted International Green Award, presented by Mikhail Gorbachev and Leonardo DiCaprio. It went to Crude, a Joe Berlinger documentary that focuses on the indigenous Amazon people of Ecuador, pollution, and the power of big corporations.
It's quite an honor to get a prize like this, but in particular, it was great to shake the hand of Mikhail Gorbachev on a stage in Berlin, because he's the man who brought down the Berlin Wall.
And when the big names had gone, the party went on, even if not all the celebrating was about the films in focus.
Now, this chap leaping out of the picture is one of the most famous examples of a trompe-l'œil, or trick of the eye. Right now in Hamburg, there's an exhibition of artistic optical illusions from down the ages. We went along and also spoke to German photographer Thomas Demand about his trademark visual trickery. He's also featured in the exhibition too.
Fresh fruit, more or less, made of marble and wood. A stone sculpture, painted on canvas. Artworks that deliberately mislead us, a phenomenon that's almost 2,000 years old.
Nowadays, it's once again a topical subject, because we live in an age of digital visual media, where manipulation and simulation are important themes. And many artists are looking back to the significance of optical illusions and trompe-l'œil in the art of the past.
80 works of deceptively realistic art are now on display at the Buserius Forum in Hamburg. The exhibition ranges from three-dimensional depictions on mosaics from antiquity to works by major award-winning contemporary artists such as Gerhard Richter from Germany. In the 17th century, trompe-l'œil, or visual deception, was in its heyday. Painters tried to surpass each other in the realism of the illusions they created. The exhibition also includes works by German photographic artist Thomas Demand, 2 of them in fact. Demand's technique is especially complex. He builds models like this window made of cardboard and paper, and then photographs them in his Berlin studio. He's found paper fascinating as a material since he first started studying art.
The advantage of paper is that everybody's familiar with it. It seems trustworthy, even though you don't quite know why. Everyone writes on paper, everyone's crumpled it up. I try to use these tactile experiences without being too artsy-craftsy, to make things you don't usually make out of paper.
He doesn't normally let people look over his shoulder when he's working. Years ago, he once documented how he made full-scale replicas of rooms and places, like this German television studio. His art requires creating the most perfect illusion possible.
A cartoonist would just put a simple table in the background and a window, but not worry about how thick the tabletop was in relation to it. Just make it recognizable. With me, recognition is the starting point. You should see that it's a specific table and not just any old table. It's this attention to detail that makes the image convincing.
The U.S. President's Oval Office is one of Thomas Demand's most elaborate works. Here, too, everything's made of paper, just like the carpet made of confetti. Demand has exhibited his photographic works all over the world. The Museum of Modern Art in New York even devoted a solo exhibition to him. His pictures seize on motifs that are etched on the collective consciousness. For example, the storming of Stasi headquarters as the former East Germany was crumbling.
In a museum, you see pictures whose context is unfamiliar because the people depicted are no longer alive and you don't know who they were. But it holds up because the pictures are so good.
Back in Hamburg, the exhibition is about more than just entertaining illusions. Many of the pictures have a deeper message. Here, time is equated with money. And this picture's original title was An Impossibility, referring to how art can deceive our eyes into taking illusion for reality.
Swedish retail chain H&M has attracted much media attention by getting top fashion designers to create affordable collections for their high street stores. It's been very successful, and this year it's the turn of French label Sonia Rykiel. The resulting knitwear collection features the trademark stripes that made the Sonia Rykiel brand famous.
H&M staged another spectacular show in Paris with its newest design collaboration, Sonia Rykiel for H&M. After last year's underwear collection, the French designer is bringing out a new series of knitwear. Her label, famous for luxurious woolen dreams, stripes, bows and brilliant colors, is now available to all for a limited time.
It's in our blood, in our skin, and it's really something that it was a good timing to show, to give, to offer to all the women in the world, which is, of course, with the H&M resources, the best way to do it.
German designer Karl Lagerfeld started the trend to luxury for the masses in 2004 with the first H&M collaboration. He designed 30 pieces of clothing in a limited edition. The most expensive item cost €149, much more than the average price at the Swedish retail chain, and was sold out in a few hours.
We couldn't imagine it would be such a success. We thought maybe we'd do a couple of times with this and then we see.
From that point on, H&M released 1 or 2 special collections each year. Top-notch designers have been eager to lend their names to the trendy retailer, from British designer Stella McCartney to the high-end accessory label Jimmy Choo. Their fashion ideas may cost hundreds of euros elsewhere, but at H&M they can be had at a fraction of the cost, making customers happy.
Of course, it's ultimately also about business. The manufacturer or retailer wants to get people into his store, bond them to his brands, and thus increase market share and profit. But this is legitimate, of course. The designer, for his part, isn't doing it out of the goodness of his heart either.
Young designers are attracted by the attention and the money and use it to finance their own labels. Competition is getting stiffer, so more collaborations can be expected in the future.
There are still many products and names that haven't been used yet, and I think in the coming years this will continue to increase. Also because offers and products increasingly come to resemble each other in a globalized world where anything can be technically copied very rapidly. That means that companies and manufacturers seek ways to distinguish themselves, and cooperation with stars and designers is one way of doing that.
The democratization of luxury. On February 20th, when H&M's newest design collaboration with Sonia Rykiel arrives in shops all over the world, clothes and accessories will seek to attract not only existing loyal customers, but also a new segment of the public, children.
And finally, we're off to one of the more remote parts of the continent, to a set of islands far from mainland Europe. The Azores, way out in the Atlantic, belong to Portugal and are one of the best places in the world to go whale watching, especially around Pico. So, Euromaxx took to the waves in a fragile dinghy heading out into the seas.
Southeast of the mighty volcano Pico, there's an impressive show. A school of dolphins play among the whale-watching boats. You can almost always see dolphins here. Finding the giants of the sea is more difficult, such as this sperm whale. After coming up for air, it elegantly slips back beneath the waves. Early in the morning above the port city of Lajes, men like Manuel Gonçalves are already on watch. They're scanning the sea for whales.
At the moment, it's just dolphins. There are probably whales as well, but I can't see any.
There are a few viewpoints like this. They date back to the whaling days in the Azores. Today, only whale watchers are guided by information gained at these sites. Nearly everyone in Lajes lives from whale watching. In the neighbouring town of São Jorge, there's a private museum that provides a wonderful look at the world of deep sea life. Its owner is a marine biologist who specialised in whales, octopi and giant squids, and has collected a great deal of knowledge about the beasts. The Jonah's eye view of the inside of an aquatic giant, for example, is featured in a series of murals. Outside in the yard, an iron model shows how big a sperm whale is. The British museum founder says whale-watching tourism can only be positive.
It offers a protection against whaling coming back for the products, because the countries that do whale watching, and there are many of them, actually, by that tourist process, make enough money to justify not going whaling.
A trip out on the sea is always exciting because you never know whether you'll be lucky and see a whale or two. But if you're patient, Pico Island is usually generous with its rewards. Roman Vodica is a veterinarian at the Prague Zoo. He enjoys spending his holidays here, watching different marine mammals.
The rorquals and baleen whales come in March, April, maybe even May. And, for example, the killer whale and the narwhal are very rare, but their time is between April and May.
The waters around Pico Island are well suited for marine research.
I think it's the best place in Europe and the whole world. There aren't many places where you can see 20 different kinds of whale nearly all year round.
insgesamt 20 Walarten zu sehen, ja.
Swimming with dolphins. Scuba diving with whales. The magnificent creatures seem weightless as they descend to greater depths. The excitement seems to reach its peak just before the whales submerge. Anyone who's seen the sight once isn't likely to forget it.
And if you're interested in seeing any of those reports or others from DWTV, go to YouTube and type in Deutsche Welle English, all one word, and the choice is yours. That's it for now, though, so bye-bye.